sometimes controversial, always politically incorrect, and pro-life without exception, without compromise, and without apology. It's the Pro-Life America podcast with your hosts, Sarah Waits and the president of Life Dynamics, Mark Crutcher.
Well, as usual, we want to welcome you to the Life Dynamics Pro-Life America podcast. I'm Mark Crutcher, and joining me is my charming co-host, Sarah Waits.
Hello, everyone. I've elevated to charming.
Charming. Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Very charming. Well, anyway.
Moderately.
Moderately charming.
Depends on the day.
Right. We've had a pretty interesting thing happen down in Mar-a-Lago with
That's an understatement.
President Trump, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But first, we just had a new spending package passed by the Democrats.
Called the Reduce Inflation Act, which
is exactly the opposite of what it is.
Before we get into that, though, there is an interesting soundbite that came out earlier today when Biden was talking about inflation, and he has some good news for Americans. Are y'all ready for this? This is what he had to say.
Before I begin today, I want to say a word about the news that came out today relative to the economy. Actually, I just want to say a number: 0. Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July. 0%. Here's what that means. Well, the price of some things went up last month. The price of other things went down by the same amount. The result, 0 inflation last month. But people were still hurting. But 0 inflation last month.
Aren't you glad to hear?
This guy is
zero
living
inflation.
in some sort of drug-induced stupor. His own administration said the inflation rate last month was 8.5%. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But you are talking about people that are...
These are the same people who are expecting a pat on the back because the gas prices are going down, despite the fact that they're still higher than when Biden took office.
Yeah.
More than $1. It's like $1.74, I think.
Right. It's mind-boggling how these people can think this way. But what you have to understand, though, in the case of Biden, for example, and this is true for a lot of these people, Biden has never had a job in his life outside of politics.
I thought he said he was a lifeguard for a while.
Well, he said that, and he also said he was a long-haul truck driver at one point, which he wasn't. This guy is totally out of his mind. It's no wonder they don't want him to go out and talk, and you know that the White House handlers hold their breath every time that he goes out and gets in front of a camera.
Well, this is the same president that had somebody dressed up as the Easter Bunny fielding people away from him so he didn't talk to them.
Right. It's unbelievable.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like this.
But let's talk about
this
new spending package that the Democrats just passed.
Which I believe Kamala Harris has praised as
the largest investment ever made to address the climate crisis.
Unbelievable. Let me ask you something, Sarah. You're out and you're in the world and you're paying your own bills and so forth.
Independent woman. Hoo-ha. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And there have been times, and I know from you having worked here for all these years and having known you all these years, there have been times when your financial situation got tight.
Yeah.
Because you had unexpected expenses or whatever it might be. When you get into a tight situation or even a crisis economic situation, is your solution to that to go out and spend money you don't have by borrowing money you can't pay back? Is that what you do?
If I was a senator, I would say yes.
Right.
But no, absolutely not.
Nobody listening to this that's not in politics would do that.
Now, there's times where you have to put like a large expenditure on a credit card.
But you know you can pay it back.
Yeah, you know you have to pay it back and you don't have any other option. But you don't say, you know what, money is tight right now, but I think what I need to do is book a trip to Cancun.
Yeah.
And put a whole bunch of money on another credit card.
Or I want that new $10,000 Rolex watch I saw, but I can't pay the bills I already have.
But I'll go out and buy a $10,000 watch, yeah.
Right, if I can borrow the money that I can't pay back.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want people to understand what we're talking about here. It's hard for anybody, for me or anybody else, to process the idea of $1 trillion.
Oh, yeah.
These guys are throwing $1 trillion around like it's no big deal. Now, what the Democrats have spent recently is well in excess of $1 trillion over a year. I want you to understand how much money that is. $1 trillion is $192,901 per second.
Per second.
If you're spending $1 trillion a year, if that's what the budget is,
Oh, so
which
it's
is
1
more,
year. Okay.
For 1 year, that's $192,901
Per second.
per second. That's how much money
Wow.
they're spending in excess of that right now. That's $1 million of taxpayer money every 5 seconds. Now, I want you to think about this.
So just now, $1 million was spent.
During the time it took me to say that,
Wow.
they spent $1 million. They spent $1 million by borrowing it from future generations. Mm-hmm. This is not like we have a big stockpile of money somewhere.
No, our country's in debt. Way in
Trillions
debt.
of dollars.
Trillions of dollars in debt.
Now, I want you to imagine a newborn child right now. A child is being born in America right this moment. Mm-hmm. I want you to imagine that you're looking at that child and thinking about the fact that what the Democrats have spent right now, that child's great-great-grandchildren will not be able to pay off.
Yeah.
They'll be paying on this for generations. We don't spend money that we saved up in the past. We spend money that our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to have to pay back in the future.
Yeah, because even if we stop taking money out, we would have to be spending no money and dedicate all the money that we have right now that's coming into the federal government to pay off debts. And it would take a while.
It would take years.
And only that would be possible if we were spending zero money federally.
But again, they spend money that they don't have by borrowing money they cannot pay back.
And the question is,
These
who?
people ought to be in a prison somewhere.
Well, the question everybody needs to ask is, who are we in
China
debt to?
is our biggest debtor. Mm-hmm. Debt-y, I guess would be the right. We're the biggest debtor of them.
And you know, this Inflation Act, one of the things that they did was, as it relates to electric cars, there's an electric car income tax credit. However, the bill requires that the extension of this credit go to domestic manufacturing of electric vehicles and their battery components in order to qualify for the credit. So this means that the law requires that 40% of the battery components be sourced from factories in the U.S. or its free trade agreement partners, and that batteries be made in the U.S. by 2029, and that Chinese components and minerals be phased out beginning in 2024.
Good luck.
They're so focused on phasing out Chinese components in this legislation, and yet look where we owe all this money to.
The fact is, if you could wave a magic wand right now and just turn 10% of the gasoline-powered cars in the country into electric cars, our electrical grid would crash.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have anywhere near the capacity.
Well, that's what part of this bill is doing, is they're trying to encourage the building of, quote, quote, renewable energy plants.
You could put a windmill in everybody's backyard in the United States, and it still wouldn't even come close
Yeah.
to powering these electric cars. This is absolutely preposterous. But anyway, the most important thing in this bill, beyond the breathtaking hubris it takes to spend this kind of money that you don't have and can't pay back,
Yeah.
87,000 additional IRS agents are to be hired under this bill.
$80 billion for the IRS with 87,000 new.
Not 87,000 total IRS agents, additional IRS agents.
Yeah.
Now, you know, back when Nixon was in trouble, and there was accusations that he was going after his enemies by using the IRS to audit them and get them in trouble with the IRS. I don't think it was ever proven that he did that. I'm sure he probably did. But he was accused of doing that. That is what the Biden administration is doing. That's what the Obama administration did.
Yeah.
They were caught doing it. They were going after nonprofit conservative groups, either trying to take away their 501c3 tax exempt status or denying them a 501c3 while they were at the same time giving leftist organizations their tax exempt status so they could raise more money. So Obama was caught doing it. Don't think for a moment that that's not what this is about. You know, they're out here saying, and anybody that believes this is pathetically simple-minded. They're out here saying that they're rehiring all these additional 87,000 agents so they can better serve the public when they call in with questions to the IRS.
Yeah, there was a new article that came out in the New York Post, and it says, the headline reads, 87,000 new agents will absolutely not target middle-income Americans.
Right.
And in this article, it says that IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig tried to assure the U.S. Senate in a recent letter about the 87,000 new agents. And he says that these resources will absolutely not be about increasing audit scrutiny on small businesses or middle-income Americans. However, it's estimated that 80% of new IRS revenue will come from small businesses earning under $200,000, says tax experts.
What they're saying is that there's so many middle income and lower income people cheating on their taxes that the volume of them is so high. That's why they have to have 87,000 agents to make sure that those people get audited.
So this idea that they're not going to be targeting middle income Americans is completely untrue. Who do they think are operating these small businesses?
That's what I'm saying. They're going after people that are just hardworking Americans. This is obscene, what these people are doing. But they're also going to use this as a weapon against their enemies. That's clear. They've already done it, and they'll do it again. And let's also remember something else that I haven't heard talked about here. When the Obama administration pushed through Obamacare, which they said was going to be a bipartisan effort, that it wouldn't have any value if it wasn't bipartisan, yet they pushed it through without one single Republican vote.
Well, and they had to pass it to know what was in it, too.
Yeah, they had to pass the bill before you could find out what was in it. And now we know what was in it. We knew before. But let's remember something. The enforcement agency for Obamacare is the IRS.
Yep.
They established that principle. Don't tell me they didn't know what they were doing. What we now know is that at the same time they established the principle that the IRS would be the enforcement agency for the Obamacare,
Because they could do it as a tax on the health
they were
stuff,
using the
yeah.
IRS to go after their enemies at the same exact time. Do you
Keep
feel
in mind, recently they've been trying to lower the amount of IRS audited transactions down to what, like $600?
Yeah, from 10,000
From
to 600.
10,000 to 600.
Right. But if the IRS is the enforcement agent of Obamacare, which we know it is, and they're going to hire another 87,000 agents, that's going to be pushing Obamacare, obviously.
Well, there's also a component in there that did additional funding to the Obamacare program as well.
But think about this. Right now, there's a single government agency in America that has access to all your financial records
And
all
your health
and your
information.
health information.
Yeah.
One government agency has that power, and they're just now pushing for 87,000 new agents. This is about controlling the American people. That's what this is about. You can't see it as anything else. What else do you need to know? If you have access to somebody's medical records and their financial records, what else do you need to know? That's all you need to know to totally control that population. And that's what's happening here.
What this bill is really about is about expanding the IRS and pushing through unpopular spending on climate change, fighting climate
Well,
change.
yeah, that's right.
what this was about. If you look at who the big benefiters from this deal and who suffers the most from this, that's what this is about.
Right. Well, let's tie this now to this situation down in Florida with Trump and Mar-a-Lago. First off, let's establish one principle. The Biden administration was instantly on the job claiming they knew nothing about this beforehand. If you believe that, you're a complete moron. This is one of the most outrageous, aggressive things ever done by the United States Department of Justice and by the FBI. And you're going to tell me that they took this on themselves, didn't clear it with Biden first? You got to be crazy if you think that. This was meant to send a message to the American people. That's what this was. If you get in our way, if you cross us, we'll come after you. And now we're going to have another 87,000 IRS agents to do that job with. You know, when this thing hit, I thought about a poster I had seen advertised online. It showed up on my timeline one day on computer. And it was a picture of Trump looking straight at the camera. And he said, "They're not coming after me. They're coming after you.
I'm just in their way.
I'm just in the way." You know, that is exactly what happened in Mar-a-Lago. They're getting the guy that's in the way. That's what they're doing. Let's also remember, they're not even saying yet what they were looking for.
Well, it is said that Trump delayed returning more than a dozen boxes of material to the National Archives, which included documents that were, quote, marked as classified national security information. Now, it didn't say he didn't. It just said he delayed returning about 15 boxes.
Well, he was working with them.
Yeah, but because the National Archives identified classified information in the boxes, and because that there was a delay, the agency had been in communication with the Department of Justice.
This is a dust-up over documents. This has never been done before against any president.
And this is documents that under the Presidential Records Act requires that all documents and records pertaining to official business be turned over to the archives. Now listen to this. This includes, it says the items in the boxes included documents, mementos, gifts, and letters. The archives did not describe the classified material it found other than to say it was classified national security information.
Okay, let me tell you something. You're having even Obama haters, some never Trump Republicans, some Democrats coming out and saying the Justice Department better have a damn good explanation for this.
Yeah.
It better be rock solid or there's going to be hell to pay. And here's what scares me, or what alarms me about this deal. If they're now being told, if the Department of Justice being told, you better have a good explanation for this, they're going to come up with one. They took boxes away from Trump that they admit they never looked at. They just grabbed the boxes and took them. They never opened them. They never read the materials that were there.
Well, it was reported that they were there for a long time.
Never let Trump's attorneys be present.
Yeah, they told the staff that they had to turn off the security cameras. Now, from what I read in the article, they didn't, but they were told to.
I think it was Senator Rubio said, they better have a smoking gun in one of those boxes. What I'm concerned about is they will put a smoking gun in one of those boxes. How do we know when they took a box out of Trump's possession and they take it to D.C. or wherever they take it, and all of a sudden they find the smoking gun in there? How do we know they didn't put the smoking gun in there? And you say, well, this is the FBI and the Department of Justice, but we now know those are political organizations. We now know that they're corrupt from the top to the bottom. How do we know?
From the very founding of our country, we have believed in the principle of oversight, checks and balances. That goes for branches of government. That also goes for organizations and departments of the government. So the question is, who has the oversight? The thing that concerns me, I can understand why lawyers may be asked to be removed from the area.
No, I can't.
Well, they don't want people interfering into the search. However, I don't see the need to have security cameras turned off. That absolutely doesn't seem legally necessary to me.
Well, as far as telling the attorneys you have to go outside, you can't be present because you're concerned about them interfering, well, then when they interfere, throw them out. That's how you handle that. You don't do it preemptively.
The other thing is, according to Eric Trump, the lawyer for Donald Trump, not only was she forced to stand outside, they wouldn't give her the search warrant. They showed it to her from some feet away and would not give her a copy of it.
And why hasn't that search warrant been released yet? That's what I'm saying. Let us know what you were looking for. Because you can't just get a search warrant and say, we just want to go in there and look around and see what we can find.
Well, my common belief was that whenever the search warrant was issued and they show up at, say, your house or whatever, you have a right to see that search warrant and what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
And that would extend to your legal counsel.
If they can do this to a former president of the United States,
Yeah.
who is not exposed to it?
Well, Congressman Scott Perry says that the FBI seized his cell phone one day after. He released a statement that says, "This morning, while traveling with my family, 3 FBI agents visited me and seized my cell phone. They made no attempt to contact my lawyer, who would have made arrangements for them to have my phone if that was their wish. I am outraged, though not surprised, that the FBI, under the direction of Merrick Garland's DOJ, would seize the phone of a sitting member of Congress."
Hillary Clinton is not in jail yet. She was under a congressional mandate to turn over email records.
Thousands of emails.
She destroyed 35,000 email records that she was under congressional order to turn over.
Yeah.
Nothing happened to her.
Nope.
She's not in prison where she should be.
Now, Matt Walsh brought up that several months ago, physical evidence was uncovered indicating that an abortion clinic in D.C. has been murdering fully developed and already born infants. The DOJ refused to investigate. The FBI has not conducted any raids. And Marco Rubio said the FBI isn't doing anything about groups vandalizing Catholic churches, firebombing pro-life groups, or threatening Supreme Court justices, but they find time to raid Mar-a-Lago.
What about Black Lives Matter and Antifa? They burned cities to the ground. They took over cities. Dozens of police officers were killed during that summer in these riots. Thousands of people were injured, and thousands of businesses were destroyed. When you destroy somebody's business, you destroy their livelihood.
Yeah.
There are going to be people out there, I guarantee you
There
can
are
find
people
them.
out there.
There are people out there whose entire life savings was wrapped up in their business, and it's now gone. Where is the Department of Justice on these cases? They're not doing anything. Let me make a point here. Let's say the reverse of this situation that happened at Mar-a-Lago had happened. Let's say Trump was president and He sent FBI and Department of Justice people to Obama's house. 30
to
of
Biden's
them.
house.
Or to Biden's house. But sent them to Obama's house or Biden's house, and they just showed up in the dead of night and
Wouldn't let him see the search warrant.
wouldn't let them see the search warrant. Showed up with a safe cracker to open a safe that turned out to be empty.
Insisted that security turn off security cameras.
All the same things had happened. I guarantee you, before the sun went down, cities all over America would be on fire. That's what would have happened. We've already seen that. You wait and see if Trump gets reelected in 2024. We'll see the same thing from these Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Democrat-led, Democrat-financed entities becoming violent.
Well, I don't know all the details of everything, and I don't think any of us will know the full details of what's going on, what they were looking for. Was there any justification?
We'll
on this
never
or not?
know.
However, what I think might be the instigation behind this, they're going over Trump with a fine-tooth comb. The law governing the preservation of White House materials and the Presidential Records Act doesn't have any real legal teeth to prevent Trump from rerunning. However, there are criminal statutes that can come into play, especially in the case of classified material. This article says criminal codes which carry jail time can be used to prosecute anyone who, quote, willfully injures or commits any depredation against any property of the United States, and anyone who willfully and unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, or destroys government documents.
And the Clintonistas were caught doing that very thing. Sandy Berger was in the National Archives.
Yeah.
He was caught and admitted later that he did it. He was caught putting top secret classified documents in his pants and walking out with them. And they got caught doing that. Sandy Berger never spent a day in jail, never spent an hour in jail. The most important people to listen to on this, I think, Fox News did a deal where they went to Mar-a-Lago because all these people started showing up at Trump's place to show support for him.
Yeah.
Right? They went there and found out that a lot of these people were Cubans and people from other Central and South American countries that had fled to the United States. And they're saying, this is how it started in our country. This is what they did there. The government started putting their political enemies in jail.
I don't know that this is necessarily put him in jail, but what I think this is designed to do is make it so that he can't run another term. If they can get him on something technical like this for criminal codes for documents, whether or not there's any major justification behind it, if they can get him charged on that, then he's ineligible.
This thing stinks to high heaven. I never would have thought in my entire life, and we always talk here about things that...
You're constantly surprised every day. It's a new thing.
I told you if I was taken back to when I was in high school and you had told that these would be the things that would be going on in America, I'd have said, you're nuts. That will never, ever happen here.
Yeah.
But here we are. And one of the women that was being interviewed, that was from Cuba, and she was an older woman, and she was almost in tears. And she said, we came here to get away from this. This is what happens in a banana republic. We are almost a banana republic now in America. The world looks up to America, whether they like us or hate us. They look at us and they say, but at least their elections are fair, their government's fair, their turnover of power is fair. They can't do that anymore. We are not that beacon for democracy around the world. Now we're living in a post-constitutional America. That's what we're involved in. And, we've said for years and years, I said it 15, 20 years ago, we're in a cultural civil war.
It's interesting when you're reading the reactions to this by people on all sides. Andrew Yang, so the Democrat runner, said, I'm no Trump fan. I want him as far away from the White House as possible. But a fundamental part of his appeal has been that it's him against a corrupt government establishment. This rage strengthens that case for millions of Americans who will see this as unjust persecution.
Yep. And if we can get rid of a few of these gutless Republicans that we've got running this country and put good, decent constitutionalists in there, I think what will eventually happen is you'll change the Democrat Party because they're going to say, we get tired of losing.
I don't know.
I don't know if it is true or not, but we've got to do something to turn this around. And it's going to take courage. And it's going to take courage that a lot of these, like I said, these gutless Republicans just don't have. And that's where the problem is. Anyway, that's all I've got. We could talk about this all day and my blood pressure would continue to, you'd be having to give me CPR here in a minute. I'd be laid out on the floor.
Well, we don't want that. So we'll just wrap up with, if you like the show, leave a review. And we want you guys to leave a comment on our episode page about what you thought about this episode and your thoughts about this whole situation.
Yeah, we'd like to hear from you. Anyway, until next Thursday, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight.
We're here to win.
Because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.